So the script is actually code. So code, what do you mean code? Computer code. In this case, the computer code is in a language called JavaScript, which is kind of a very widely used language now. And you can see that when somebody touches this, the system automatically knows to call apply pickup, and it says, if this was this pickup something that had to do with health? If so, then add the health to lerps, add to his health bar however much amount is associated with that heart. And there's another place where we set that. So each heart can be worth 1, it can be worth 100 if you want. So I wanted to show you this because that shows that with each one of these objects, there's different bits of code. And now I'm going to show you one more bit of code, again, to hammer home that although some people, when I say, oh, I got a PhD in computer games, they're like, oh, I bet you just kick back and play Halo all day. It's like, no, I do some of the most brutal math and computer science you can do, because video games are at the cutting edge of both. So it's really hard, complicated work. And just in case there's somebody in this room that hasn't yet been intimidated by the math, I'm going to make sure you're intimidated before I leave. So where is it? Yeah. No, not spatial ship collision. Not object rotator. Fallout death, that's a good one. Because that's where, basically, when do we know that the guy died? We know he died if he's touched this, this rigid body thing, this box collider, which has been added to the bottom of the game. So we've actually created an invisible flat table thing that goes underneath everything, and as soon as lerps falls far enough that he hits that flat table, that's when we know he falls out. If we didn't, he would fall forever, and the game would be kind of boring. But I forget which one I wanted to show you guys, because there was one. Oh yes, here we go. This is a complicated game because it's a third-person game instead of first-person game. So you can see lerps. The character you're controlling, you're kind of looking over his shoulder from behind. How do you get that to work? Well, there's a script associated with lerps called spring follow camera. And just to show you, just to figure out how to position the way the camera is, the view of the scene changes based on where lerps walks. You want that to happen, right? If we just had the camera stuck in the middle scene where he started and he walks off the side, then you're sitting there staring at an empty platform. The game's going to be pretty boring. You want to be able to follow along behind lerps to see where he's walking, right? So the camera's kind of up in the sky, right over lerps' shoulder, if I'm lerps. So how does it know to do that? Because it doesn't know ahead of time. It depends on where the player goes. So we've got to calculate all this stuff. And it's all using three-dimensional vectors everywhere. And based on what the target position is, the highest the Y can go, the lowest this can go, we end up doing lots of cool math, including vector multiplications.
So this is math you guys haven't even begun to touch yet, and you have to know everything you know now to get there.
Yeah, so there's good news and bad news. Good news is if you want to be a professional, bad news is if you want to be a professional video game designer and you don't like math, you're out of luck. You're going to have to learn a lot more math. Everything you learn at Carey Academy in math, all the way through calculus, would apply. The stuff that has to do with, you know how I was moving my hand and showing you light? That involves calculus that you don't even get to until college, even if you're, oh gosh, I just forgot his name, the super brilliant 11th grade kid. Even if you're the smartest math kid here, you're probably not going to get to that level of math. It uses triple integrals over surfaces. It's really nasty. So the bad news is if you want to be a coder, you're out of luck. If you want to work in video games, though, to do the artwork, plenty of opportunity to do that without having to learn all the math. You can do all this stuff about positioning stuff. You don't have to actually write the code that makes it all happen. So that's the good news. The good news is you only have to go here if you really want to get, hey, look at that. Euler, one of the greatest mathematicians of all time. That's an Euler rotation, which is the way you move a three-dimensional vector in three-dimensional space. So anyway, if you want to, you can get into that level of math, but you don't have to. So the good news is you can download this right now, and all this complicated stuff I've been showing you, you don't have to touch any of that. You can just play around, move the hearts to where you want. You could have a level where there's only one heart. You could have a level where there's no enemies, no robots. You could have a robot on every little platform the whole way through. Make it as difficult or as easy as you want. And the tools, what I wanted to support from the educational stuff is this X, Y, and Z stuff. Use it every single day. Every single day I'm doing this.
So the x-axis is our number line that we studied with inequalities and equations. The y-axis is when we start working with 2 dimensions. We have an x-axis, and then the y-axis is the vertical axis that goes through it. And then the z-axis is the axis that gives you the 3rd dimension, or so we have height and we have width, and that would give you depth.
Yeah, see, z in this case does depth. So you could think of x and z together give you the top of, x by itself is just a number line, that's a line. X and z together give you kind of a tabletop, and then y gives you height.
I have a question.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else to cover, and I think I've lost everybody now, so.
My question is, do you have to be pretty good at not making careless mistakes and been very detail oriented? Like if somebody was good at math but they made a lot of careless mistakes and that's just their personality, would it be difficult to be a programmer or to work with the math with this?
Yeah, the thing about computer programs is if you make mistakes, you want them to be big and obvious so you can find them right away. And most of the time when you make careless mistakes, they aren't big and obvious. So you can go ahead and be a programmer and make careless mistakes. And over a while, you're going to get a reputation for having programs that just seem to do weird stuff. Like Watson last night, where the Final Jeopardy, and they're saying U.S. cities, and it says Toronto. I had a friend that said, well, that's because it was designed by Americans, and Americans don't know anything about geometry. So yeah, you'll see careless mistakes like that the program seems to be working, but then it does something weird. So no, in general, you've got to be very precise.
And that's not a criticism of those of you that make careless mistakes. That's my personality. Y'all know that about me, that
oh yeah,
I'm always making careless mistakes. But I would not be very good at a detail-oriented career. It's just not my personality. It doesn't mean I don't understand math, though, as you guys well know that as well. So you just have to find a good fit for your personality.
Oh, I make careless mistakes all the time, but I know to check myself. So it's not a question of do you make the mistakes. It's a question of do you make mistakes and just barrel on down the highway without double checking. I'm constantly double checking. One of the things I do in a computer that I suggest for everybody is only change one thing at a time. And then make sure that one thing you changed, the change works the way you think it should. And as long as you do that, you're pretty good. It's when you try to do 3 things at once and you make a careless mistake on number 2 and never come back to see it. That's hard.
Checking.
Oh, I'm sorry. She had her hand up first.
Do you write the code, or does somebody write it for you?
For me personally, I had to do everything because I was the only guy working on my code for my dissertation. Most places where they build games, no, you've got a bunch of different people with different specialties. There's some people that write code. There's some people that create the artwork, and they never touch a line of code. One of the great challenges is how do you get those 2 people to talk together, because they tend to look at the game in 2 totally different ways. And I just finished at NC State, which is one of the best game development programs in the country, and every year we create teams that like when you're 4th year, you have a team and you take some artists and some computer science people, smush them together, and they have to learn to work with each other. So usually, no, you break it out, and it's even can be lower than that. You can have one person that just creates what the still image looks like, and then another person makes the image 3-dimensional, and another person makes the image move in 3 dimensions. Those are 3 different tasks: 2D artist, 3D artist, and animation. I think you were next.
So like with this Unity thing, so is this what you could make, or could you like download other 3D figures or something?
Yes.
You could download other.
Yes.
Oh,
so
cool.
Unity is really good at letting you. So another place you might go is a website called Turbo Squid. Turbo Squid has a lot of 3-dimensional models. Most of them they try to sell, but you can click on a thing that says free, and you can get a bunch of different models for free. So in my game was, for my dissertation, was emulating the inside of a computer. I was able to download all these three-dimensional models of different parts of a computer for free.
Oh, that's really cool.
Wow.
Turbo Squid. Yeah.
How would you, I guess, maybe if you wanted to upload this to like an iTunes store or what, something like that, how would you do that?
I don't know exactly, but I know you can. So one of the great things about this environment is, yes, you can design for Android, or if you want to do an iTunes app, you can do it using this platform.
Like without images and stuff, how long would it take to design a character like Lerps?
It
Like,
depends.
just
It
make
depends
it.
on if it's the very first time you've ever done one, it's going to take a long time.
Okay.
If you're an experienced artist, I went to a conference once where a guy had drawn, just by hand on a sheet of paper, drawn a two-dimensional image of kind of a mean dude. And they scanned it in, and within 45 minutes he made it three-dimensional. Because they had a front view and a side view. And you put those two views together and it looked like that. So it was just like two planes that intersected. And so it was like, if you looked at it exactly from this side or exactly from that side, which is basically all you had, it looked fine. And what he did is then he started pulling out in 3 dimensions little pieces, and kind of, it was like blowing up a beach ball, where the beach ball started off in 2 planes, and he just pulled it out until he had a 3-dimensional thing. And then he loaded it into the game and it started moving around. It was freaky. So yeah, you could do it in probably an hour once you get really good.
So you can start something from scratch on that program?
Yes.
Okay, and how hard is that? Is that really hard, or?
So this is not the easiest program to start computer game design. If there's much easier programs, another one I would suggest is at mit.scratch.edu. Scratch.mit.edu. That's a really good one. Alice is a really good one that's been designed mostly to try to get women more interested in computing, and it was done at Carnegie Mellon. So if you look up Alice at CMU, there's a great so both Scratch and Alice are much easier if you just have the idea that you want to create a game. This is really good for creating 3D games and for moving stuff in 3 dimensions and seeing what it works like. And it's not easy. I mean, if people heard I was telling a bunch of 11, 12-year-olds they should run out and do this, they probably think I'm crazy, but I know you guys are smart. And if you're motivated and if you can sit down, just try it. And after an hour, if you got something working, that's great. I really highly suggest that you start with this Lerps tutorial, though, just to get the feel for how it works, because that's a game that they already worked all the bugs out, so you know it can work. And then start your own.
What do you think about Game Maker, the program Game Maker?
Yeah, it's another good one that's
Okay.
easier to use than this. So if you found Game Maker hard, this is harder.
That's pretty easy.
If you found Game Maker limiting and that you couldn't do as much cool stuff as you'd want to, then you might be motivated to use Unity.
Okay.
Guys, we gotta go to lunch.
Okay.
Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for coming. This was
Sorry,
awesome. Oh, you're fine.
I didn't do that.
If you'd like to join your son for lunch, and you'll be in there.
I didn't realize this was behind me. I leaned back and I almost fell over, and I grabbed it.
There are.
Is there something like Scratch that's 3D? Because my dad tried to teach me Ruby once.
Yeah.
I was kind of good at it, but I could not remember how to teach it. I really like Scratch because it's always the same thing, but I could click and drag it from the box. And
Oh, is that story recording?
I was wondering if there's like 3D like that.